I did leave the last video a bit of a downer, but here is the hope. What I did not mention is that you can be the people on top in this financial crisis that we're about to hit, in this corporate collapse, in this AI bubble burst that we are rapidly approaching. You don't have to be at the bottom of the totem pole. You can actually be the one that they run to, the competent operator that can fix the system. You're going to be at the top. You're going to have all the money. You're going to have all the power. You're going to have all the leverage. And you're going to be able to save the world. Why? Because you're going to be an alpha tech operator. That generation that I was talking about in the very beginning of this series, the alpha tech operator generation doesn't have to be over from the 80s. You can become an alpha tech operator. You can join the generation, join the revolution. All you have to do is learn how to use your reasoning. Give yourself the Boolean brain. Develop the Boolean brain and you will succeed in life financially. You will be at the top of the new corporate ladder that's been developing. Because alpha tech operators, we are forged in patience. We are the generation of kids that sat through the screech of dial-up. We are the generation that waited days for that red Netflix envelope to get to your house. You could get 3 and then you had to watch them and then return them before you could get the next 3. And we are the kids who patiently spent hours coding our MySpace pages just so we could have fancy gifts of St. Patrick's Day and glitter and butterflies flashing around. We aren't going to finally start making the rules when all of the dust settles, when all of this collapse is done. We have been manipulating and customizing this machine since the beginning. While you're running around, we're quietly over here modding to our heart's content to make sure that our machines, that our systems work perfectly. We will spend hours. I will tell you, I've said Sims before. You are either a person who likes to create a sim and you can, I guess, build a sim. You're designing the person of the sim, the avatar, or you might want to spend all your time building and designing a house and decorating that house, or you might want to spend all your time modding for other things to be able to just have a special poster over there that maybe you can read and it's a motivational poster and it helps your mood. I've made mods like that. And I've also made Bible mods and stuff. I've created little Bible objects, like little books for the Sims, and they can read it and you can read different scriptures and things that it pops up when they read and it helps their moods and things. So I've had fun modding this and I will spend my time modding, not actually playing the game, but making it playable. Those in itself are the games. If you know anything about them, you know that you have to update every time. If you have any CC, any mods, you're going to be updating constantly. I will spend hours if this is the only thing, because during the holidays, I like to spend a little time playing Sims. And so I will spend hours getting everything ready, doing my CC, hours and hours. I may only have 15 minutes that I actually have free left over to play the game. This is my generation. And it's stubbornness too, because we know that if we work hard enough, if we move the code around enough, that we will be able to make it do exactly what we want. We don't mess around with the user-friendly stuff. I want it to do exactly what I want it to do, which isn't a user-friendly, frictionless system. It is using your brain, figuring out how to connect all this stuff so that it does exactly what you need it to do. So it's not your birth year. It is your ability to do exactly what I said. It's your ability to develop your Boolean brain. Here is a concept of Boolean logic, of Boolean brain that I can tell you exactly so you can get a better idea of exactly what it is and how to check your own mental codes. That's what I do to make sure that we are not speaking nonsense, to make sure that we can continue to operate without breaking down. Because eventually, if there are codes that are constantly not working, something's going to break. You cannot function in a system with conflicting codes. It will not happen for long. That system will crash. All it takes to develop Boolean brain is just to rewire how you engage with reality. Start creating that friction. Just mentally how you think, just start creating this friction. You have to discard your emotion-full, frictionless interface. You've got to cut it down to functional logical reasoning. And that is how you're going to be able to survive in this world. Not because you have no emotions, but because the emotions don't override all your codes. You make sure that the emotions do not get rewritten into your code that's conflicting with your desire to have peace. So if that emotion is there, you got to figure out and deal with it. The system of Boolean logic is rigorous, it is strict, it has boundaries, it is if then, there are brackets, the little carrots, and those will tell you to open and close things. You cannot just make up your own code. You cannot willy-nilly throw stuff out there. It is very strict logic, and it is a cause and effect logic. You cannot change how the machine functions. When we work with an AI and we're trying to get it to do something we want to, and it's not something that it actually can do, it will lie to you and continuously gaslight you about it's trying to do it, it'll do better next time, this and that. That's why it's so important to understand what AI tool you're using and how it actually does function, because a lot of times we're asking the technology to do something it can't actually do, and the technology is built to pretend that it's doing it. This is psychologically a problem. I have a whole AI video about the empathy bubble and the AI crash that is happening right now, how Uncanny Valley fits in with AI and how it's affecting us mentally and causing a major mental health crisis in the entire world right now. It's not me just being dramatic. It is a psychological, biological safety defense mechanism that is being triggered by AI constantly right now. And I have a whole video about that, but that is what we have to understand, how machines function, including every bit of AI. As it's newly developed, we have to say, what is this AI doing? How is it built? And how is it learned? Do you need to understand all the, as you go, you will just naturally start to learn coding. You will naturally start to learn that stuff. But understanding the basic of the cause and effect, why it's doing what it's doing, what you're putting in, what it's taking from what you're putting in, and what it's giving back and why, will dramatically change the way your brain functions and the way that your brain muscle works and your logic and reasoning work. Just understanding that this machine is lying to you all the time will actually free up a lot of your mental, that gaslighting feeling that you're getting can be freed up a lot more easily. You won't get as angry, and the pent-up anger won't happen as much once you realize the actual limitations of the AI that you're dealing with. Because it's important to remember that AI and a computer, any technology, doesn't care how you feel. It doesn't care what you think. It doesn't care about your emotions, and it doesn't try. It doesn't need you to feel good. It doesn't have the capacity to need or want anything. It won't care if you tried your best. It doesn't care what your intent was. People talk about how, oh, well, you meant well. It doesn't really matter if the end result was a complete disaster failure and there was bad things happening that you can't change. Okay, yeah, you meant well, but bad things happened. So that computer doesn't care about your intent, just like consequences don't care about your intent. It means that we have to be more intentional when we do stuff about what the consequences could be. We need to look at long-term effects. Stop doing the short-term benefits. Just stop trying to get that short-term, that quick fix, and start thinking about long-term indulgence. Yeah, you can still have good times, but being able to delay the gratification, to not have instant gratification and be patient for it and look forward to it, is actually a skill, and we have to learn how to develop that. So that is one of the skills we do want to work on. Feelings don't play a role in an operator's world, not because they don't exist and not because you don't acknowledge them, but because they are so volatile. You cannot change a whole system code based on a feeling. You have to figure out where that feeling fits in with the code, and you have to figure out what code you already have in your system that helps deal with that feeling, so that feeling can be released or freed or dealt with. Some people use therapy, some people use different things. However you do it, I'm not telling you the method or the process to do those things, but it's not a devoid of emotion. You are a human, and that's special. And the emotions are there for a reason, but they're not there to immediately agree with and cater to them. They're their defense mechanism. They're there as a way to figure out what's happening in the world around you and how your body or your mind is relating to it, social interactions and all of that. What is also extremely important in a Boolean brain is that your words matter. Words have actual meanings. They mean things, and you can't just use a current buzzword and change the meaning to what marketers do and act like that word now just means that new thing. It doesn't mean the new thing. You cannot redefine words and have everyone change their definition. No. Words have meanings, and they mean the thing that the word means, not what you want it to mean because it's convenient in that situation. So an important part of a Boolean brain, of an alpha tech operator brain, is that you have a high vocabulary, you learn words, you try to learn new words, and you learn what words mean, and you accurately speak. You try not to exaggerate crazily. I do exaggerate, but you try to have accuracy in what words you use. I try to speak intentionally. I try to speak more slowly and develop my sentences more slowly just because I know that words are very important and I want to express the exact word that would be universally understood. If you're talking about discrimination, you can't define discrimination only in one group terms. You can't redefine the word discrimination. It's any discrimination. So if you try to say discrimination only happens in one group or in one setting, then you're changing the definition. That's not how logical real world brains work. If you're going to be intelligent, if you're going to be an operator, if you're going to take over the world during all of this, you are going to need to understand words, and you're going to need to accept that words mean things, and you can't just change the meaning of the words. Why? Because you need consistency. Consistency is important. Every action has a very specific reaction. And if there are a handful of reactions, because there's a handful of variables, you're really going to want to have a lot of consistency because that will help you deal with different variables much easier, because precision and consistency will dictate outcome. And that's what you'll start to learn. This is what I do. I do it regularly, and I think about it regularly because it's important that I'm fixing the things that are being broken in my brain as well. What I'm seeing right now, and what I think a lot of people are seeing and being frustrated with, is the user mentality where you've downloaded a billion apps and none of them are compatible with each other. They all do different things. Their goals are different. And if you try to run two of these apps at the same time, your system will crash. That's what we're seeing. We're seeing a bunch of people whose systems are incompatible and they're all crashing. It's just they don't work with each other. They don't work anymore. And that is what the danger of not following this if-then type of Boolean brain logic and just being a user. You will mentally crash yourself. Your brain needs some set of logic. Your brain cannot survive in a chaotic way. If you look at a computer, it is created like a human brain. Think about that. It is structured in a hierarchical system, like how your brain is categorizing things. Your brain needs systems, it needs structure, and it needs consistency and precision over time. The psychopath, possibly sociopathic, schizophrenic, there's multiple personalities, there's disordered personality, there's lots of different things that medically they would call a person that is functioning with codes that are completely breaking each other. It's breaking the person's brain. You cannot function in complete illogic chaos. That's called insanity. That's crazy. Your brain cannot do it. And it is driving people crazy trying to do it. And I'm going to give you a really good example of an argument where you can see how this argument completely doesn't work. You can see where this person is a user. They have two different codes they're running. They ran one code this day, one code this day. They do not work together. They cannot work together. And therefore, none of their worldview can be validated. Not because everything they think or who they agree with is technically wrong, but you can't listen to this person anymore and agree with anything that they say. If you want to follow that viewpoint, and yes, I'll say the progressive viewpoint, you cannot follow Rosie O'Donnell because she does not make you make sense. She does not follow your ideology, and she actually has introduced several codes, but I'm going to show you a specific code that Rosie O'Donnell introduced to her worldview, into the world system, because it was convenient at that time, and it completely disintegrates all of the progressive and gender ideology that she agrees says she agrees with, but she couldn't agree with it if she actually agrees with the things she said. So I am not discounting here, and I want to make very clear, this example is not to discount left-leaning progressive ideology or any gender ideology. This is literally about a specific person. Their codes that they presented were so incompatible that if you actually agreed with the new code she introduced, it would completely destroy every bit of her gender ideology, of her left-leaning ideology, which means that the new code must not be accurate. It means that the new code must not be what all progressives or leftists think. That is my thought process through this, because it can't possibly be, because they do not connect. So let's go through this whole thing of what she said and how we can dissect it to show the Boolean logic brain and how it dissects any argument, so that we can make sure that we stay as consistent as we possibly can. We are going to have inconsistencies, but we're going to try to get better and try to look at all the information from different angles, look at the code in all the different ways, and say, oh, this code, yes, it works, or no, it does not work. Everyone has heard of Eric Swalwell and all of the predatory behavior that has been alleged about him recently. We are seeing this very horrible information coming out about him. And so Rosie O'Donnell, who had supported him in the past, had donated and actually promoted or endorsed him in the past, decided she needed to come out and say something about it, because yeah, you do put your name on something, maybe you have something to say about this situation. And she claimed that, this is a direct quote, men suck the way that they are physiologically. They can't sort of control their blank urges. She tried to use a biological reflex to explain away a scandal. But, okay, first let's just understand, she wasn't trying to alleviate his guilt. She doesn't care about Eric Swalwell at all. She's just trying to make it so she's not guilty for endorsing him. She's not trying to help him out. She's trying to help herself out. She's trying to dig herself out of a hole that she now feels like she's in because she endorsed a guy who turned out not to be a good guy. She was throwing him completely under the bus. And in doing that, she was also able to plant a seed of just all men are bad at the exact same time, which does seem like that is something she has tried to promote before. So it does seem to fit into that storyline, that they have this narrative that she has. So that in itself does not completely conflict with some of the viewpoints that I might hear from her ideological standpoint, ideological worldview. But what she did in trying to defend herself, she threw a really anti-male script out there. This says, let's look at it one more time. Men suck the way that they are physiologically. Okay, so they're just physiologically. This is science. This is not something that you think. This is a biological thing she's saying. They can't sort of control their blank urges. She's obviously meaning, those urges. So, first of all, she's using biology, which is an interesting choice for someone who really spends a lot of time saying that biology doesn't really matter and identity is not about biology. Okay, so we're looking, because there is a difference between gender, identity, and being male, female biologically. But she wanted to make it clear it's not her lack of judgment. It's just the fact that no matter what guy you talk to, biologically, there's something that they sort of can't control. And it's causes them to be predatory. The thing that they can't control is not like, oh, they sometimes hiccup. No, this is a predatory, dangerous behavior that she's saying that all men just sort of can't control. All right, well, let's keep digging into exactly what she said. By this logic, men biologically are so physiologically broken. How can we even just let them exist in the world? We must have to lock them up on an island or something. It's lunacy to say that a person, a group of people, a gender, biologically just can't control being a predator, and just saying MBD, like, no big deal. But while many feminists might actually like that idea and concept, we have to look at the bigger implications, not even bigger, but additional implications that what she said has on her worldview that she stated. So, if biologically men cannot control these urges, what does that mean about all men? And what does that mean about how you identify as? Is biology more important than your identity? And we start seeing how this can snowball. Because if physiologically your biology overrides every sense of your ability to control yourself and react appropriately, and if that overrides mental identity, then you couldn't say that men are ever safe to be around, ever, because that's an unstoppable force that dictates behavior. So does that mean that there isn't non-binary then? Because men can't control it. I feel like that somehow negates any concept of a non-binary, a gender ideology. If you identify as a gender, does that even matter if biologically you're just born to be a predator and you can't control it? Okay. So we have that, right? Does gender exist or doesn't it? According to Rosie, sometimes it doesn't exist, but right here it clearly does exist, and all men are apparently predators. This is what she's clearly just said. So if biology is the ultimate dictator of human behavior, well then any man who biologically is male but identifies female would still be a predator, according to this logic, which would mean that we really can't allow them in safe spaces with women because it's no longer safe. You're allowing a predator in that you've just called a predator into that space because you said that it's uncontrollable. Okay, I see that. But what if they're on hormone therapy? So what if you decide that physiologically you can change those urges by changing the hormones, changing some of the chemicals in the body, changing maybe how the brain reacts based on these chemicals? Okay, so that would mean that a man who identifies as a woman would be doing these hormone and the therapies, doing gender affirming care, would actually be safe to be around women. That's good. Okay, but what about the biological women who identify as men? So they decide to take hormone therapy because now we've decided that you can't be that thing without your hormones or without some sort of chemical biological thing. Okay, so we're now actually prescribing drugs that will create predatory behavior, that will turn these biological females who identify as males, that will actually turn them into predators. Wouldn't that be not ethical to do? But then what does that say about a biological female who's identifying as a male? What are they identifying with? Are identifying with a predatory behavior? Or is that only biology? Because one of the groups is going to be ostracized now, Rosie. Your own stupid code, anti-male agenda has now negated your entire gender structure. Your whole identity structure doesn't even fit. You've offended your entire world view and everyone involved in it in one sentence just to save face, because that was the code you needed to pull to make yourself look good in that minute without actually thinking, oh, how does this work with actually what I believe in life? Literally self-destruct mode, error. That's what's happening right now. Let's introduce this whole concept of orientation. If you're a gay man, are you the same as any other predatory male, or is this only straight men? She didn't clarify that. So it does seem like right now she's just saying all men, regardless of their orientation. So I am seeing Rosie O'Donnell saying some crazy offensive things, saying things that contradict everything that she said prior, and offending so many people all at once that she supposedly is supporting. I feel like this was a perfect example of how one word can completely ruin your entire worldview and your entire credibility. And this is why we actually need to try to do it in ourselves. I don't always say everything consistently, but I need to say this stuff. And then we all come together and we have more powerful brains that have better reasoning so that the codes and our brains and our systems that can survive with ourselves, but also in the community with each other. I don't want to be saying things that suddenly negate an entire worldview that I've been actively supporting for years. That doesn't make sense. If you want to go further, what does this mean for the Me Too movement? What did Rosie do to the Me Too movement there? If men just cannot control these urges, she says they sort of can't control it. It's just what they do. So are you giving them a free pass? Do they have no accountability or responsibility here? Because in Me Too, it's about holding people accountable. It's about punishing people for these things, for being predators. If a person is involuntarily predatory, is that actually their fault? And then we're back into the like, do we need to create a caged island for all the men? See, do you see this doesn't work? There are so many movements that she completely destroyed just by trying to save face and spread an anti-male movement. It's so dumb. Don't be like that. Use your reasoning. Make sure that if you do have an ideology, that all of the things you say, do not destroy it. Do not hurt the people that you're trying to protect and support. Because what Rosie did is hurt a lot of people with what she said. I feel like I have effectively expressed to you why the Boolean brain is the escape route. It's the escape hatch. It's how we save ourselves from this crash. It's how we save the planet. This is why we are becoming the competent ones, because we are in a competency crisis full of a land of blind people, and we have to be the one-eyed kings. We have to keep that eye open, keep the eye, keep the knowledge, keep using the Boolean logic so that we can keep the world running, because that's what we're going to need to do. So I have one more video. It's going to wrap up everything. It's my final conclusion video, and thank you for playing along. Let me know what you think, what you've been thinking. What are your thoughts about this? Like, comment, subscribe, become a member, and you can also do absolutely nothing at all. I'll see you next time.
Let's go.